Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of Rachel's story. You'll want to see what happens next. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of Rachel's story. You'll want to see what happens next. The next morning, Rachel woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the coffee table. Her mind was still a bit foggy as she reached for it, the events of the previous night playing out in her mind. Max was sleeping soundly on the couch, curled up in the blanket she had placed over him, his steady breathing soothing her as she answered the call. "Hello," she mumbled, still half asleep. "Good morning, Rachel." The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, but strangely familiar. "This is Emma from Montgomery Enterprises. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Montgomery. Is now a good time to talk?" Rachel blinked, her eyes wide open now. Montgomery Enterprises? Mr. Montgomery? Daniel Montgomery's company? Confusion clouded her thoughts for a moment. "Yes, of course," she said, sitting up straighter in her chair. "What is this about?" There was a pause on the other end before Emma spoke again, her tone softer now. "Mr. Montgomery would like to speak with you regarding your, encounter with his dog, Max." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. "Daniel Montgomery wants to talk to me?" "Okay," she said, trying to sound calm despite her racing thoughts. "What about it?" Emma's voice grew more official. "He would like to meet with you, Ms. Miller. If you're free this afternoon, he'll be at the Montgomery Towers penthouse. Can you make it?" Rachel's mind was swirling. A meeting with a billionaire CEO? Over a dog? She looked over at Max, still curled up on the couch, oblivious to everything. Sure," she finally replied, her voice shaky. "I can come." Emma gave her the details, and as Rachel hung up the phone, she couldn't help but wonder what this could all mean. Why did Daniel Montgomery want to meet her? What did he want? She had saved his dog, but that was it. She had no idea why he would seek her out like this. Was he upset? Would he thank her? She ran her hand through her hair, trying to shake off the nerves as she prepared for the meeting. The day dragged on, and by the time she arrived at Montgomery Towers, Rachel's stomach was in knots. She took a deep breath as she walked into the lobby, marveling at the sleek modern design of the building. The marble floors gleamed under the soft lighting, and the air smelled faintly of expensive cologne and polished wood. She checked in at the front desk, where a well-dressed concierge directed her to the elevator. The ride to the top floor felt like an eternity. When the doors finally opened, Rachel stepped out into a luxurious foyer, where a tall, imposing man greeted her. He was well-groomed, with sharp features and a suit that looked like it cost more than her entire apartment. "Ms. Miller, welcome," he said in a smooth voice. "I'm James, Mr. Montgomery's assistant. Please, follow me." Rachel nodded, trying to stay calm, though her heart was pounding in her chest. As she followed James through the grand hallway, her eyes were drawn to the floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. It was a view she had only seen in magazines, and now, standing here, she couldn't help but feel out of place. James stopped in front of a set of double doors, knocking gently before opening them. "Mr. Montgomery, Ms. Miller is here." Daniel Montgomery looked up from his desk, his expression unreadable. He was sitting in a large, leather chair, his posture straight, his sharp eyes studying her as she walked in. He stood up as she entered the room, his gaze intense but not unkind. "Miss Miller, thank you for coming," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "Please, sit." Rachel hesitated for a moment before sitting down across from him, the tension between them palpable. "I hope you're doing well, Ms. Miller," Daniel said, his tone softening a bit. "I trust Max is doing okay?" Rachel nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, he's doing fine. He's at home right now." Daniel leaned forward slightly, his hands clasped together on the desk. "Good. I'm glad. I owe you my thanks for taking care of him. It's not easy to find someone who would do what you did." Rachel was taken aback. "You're welcome. I couldn't leave him out there in the cold. It wasn't right." Daniel studied her for a moment, as though weighing his words carefully. "No, it wasn't," he agreed. "But what I really wanted to say is that you've done something for me that no one else has in a long time. You showed kindness when it was least expected. And I want to repay that." Rachel blinked, confused. "Repay me? I didn't do anything special. I just helped a dog." Daniel smiled, but there was something almost sad in his eyes. "You did more than that. You showed me that there's still humanity in a world that often feels very cold. And I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to offer you a job." Rachel's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "A job? What kind of job?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. "I'm starting a new charity initiative, one focused on animal welfare, and I think you're the perfect person to help lead it. You have the heart for it. You've already proven that." Rachel felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. A job with Daniel Montgomery's company? She hadn't even applied for anything. She was just a regular woman with a small apartment and a part-time job. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked at her, his eyes unwavering. "Because you're real. You didn't do it for recognition or rewards. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That's the kind of person I need by my side." Rachel's breath caught in her throat. Could this really be happening? She had saved a dog, and now she was being offered a job by one of the richest men in the world? She didn't know whether to feel overwhelmed or excited. I don't know what to say," she finally managed. Daniel smiled, his expression softening. "You don't have to say anything right now. Take some time to think about it. I'll give you all the details if you're interested." He stood up, signaling the end of their meeting. "I'll have James set up the information for you. And again, thank you, Rachel. For everything." As Rachel stood up to leave, she couldn't help but feel like her life was about to change forever. She walked out of Montgomery Towers with a feeling she couldn't quite place, a mix of excitement, disbelief, and the beginning of something she hadn't expected. The offer of a lifetime was on the table, but she wasn't sure what it meant for her future. She only knew one thing: things would never be the same again. Stay tuned for what happens next in Rachel's journey, and how this opportunity might just be the beginning of something bigger. The next few days were a whirlwind for Rachel. She couldn't stop thinking about the meeting with Daniel Montgomery. A job offer from him? It was surreal. She had spent most of her life just scraping by, never imagining that she would be offered a role in one of the most influential companies in the city. As she sat in her small apartment, looking over the details James had sent her, Rachel felt a mixture of excitement and doubt. Was she really qualified for this? She had no experience running a charity, let alone leading a project under the supervision of a tech mogul. But something in Daniel's eyes, something in the way he spoke, made her feel like she could do this. She could actually make a difference. It was an opportunity she couldn't ignore. She had spent the last few years working 3 jobs, never able to focus on her true passion: helping animals. The thought of working for a cause she believed in, with the backing of a company like Montgomery Enterprises, was too good to pass up. But then came the questions. What would this mean for her personal life? Would she still have time for the things she loved? And what about her family? Could she really leave behind everything she knew? Rachel walked over to the window, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. The city stretched out before her, and for the first time, it didn't feel as intimidating. She had a chance. A chance to build something real. She thought about Max, the dog she had saved that fateful night, and how it had changed her life. Max had been her sign, her reason to believe in kindness and second chances. As she paced around the room, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Daniel. Rachel, I wanted to check in with you about the job offer. I know it's a big decision, but I truly believe you're the right person for the role. Let me know if you'd like to discuss more details. Rachel stared at the message, her heart racing. She had been putting it off, afraid of making the wrong choice, but now she realized something. This wasn't just about the job. It was about what she wanted for herself. She could help animals, she could work for a cause she believed in, and she could do it with people who cared. The opportunity was everything she'd been waiting for. She grabbed her phone, typed a quick reply, and hit send. Thank you, Daniel. I'd love to meet and discuss the next steps. The next day, Rachel found herself back in Montgomery Towers. This time, she felt different. She wasn't the same woman who had walked through the doors just a few days ago, uncertain and unsure of herself. Today, she felt confident, ready to take on whatever came next. James greeted her at the door again, and this time, his smile seemed warmer. Mr. Montgomery is expecting you, he said, leading her to the elevator. The ride up to the penthouse felt like it took forever, but when the doors opened, Rachel stepped into the sleek, modern space once again. The same grand view of the city greeted her, but this time, it felt different. It felt like her future was out there, waiting for her to grab it. Daniel was standing near the window, his back to her, looking out over the skyline. He turned when he heard her footsteps, his expression softening when he saw her. Rachel, he said, his voice warm. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be here, she replied, smiling nervously. Daniel gestured toward the seats near the table. Please, sit. I'm glad you've decided to take the next step with us. Rachel sat down across from him, feeling the weight of the moment. She had so many questions, so much to figure out. I've thought about your offer a lot, she began. And I'm really excited about the possibility of working with you and your team. Daniel nodded, his eyes focused on her. I know this is a big step for you, but I believe in you. You've shown more heart and integrity than I've seen in years, and that's what I need, not just for the job, but for everything this project stands for. Rachel felt a warmth spread through her chest. He wasn't just offering her a job, was offering her a chance to truly make a difference, to be part of something bigger than herself. And she was ready. I'm in, she said, her voice firm, her nerves fading away. Daniel smiled, and for the first time since they had met, Rachel saw something genuine in his expression. It wasn't the cold CEO she had expected. It was the man who cared about the things that truly mattered. I'm glad to hear that, he said. You won't regret this. As Rachel left Montgomery Towers that day, a feeling of excitement and possibility filled her heart. She had made the right choice. This was just the beginning of her journey, and she couldn't wait to see where it would take her. The world was changing for her, and she was ready to embrace it. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Rachel's story, where she starts her new role and begins to see her life in a whole new light. It had been a few weeks since Rachel had accepted Daniel Montgomery's offer, and her life was beginning to shift in ways she never expected. The first few days at Montgomery Enterprises were overwhelming, to say the least. Walking through the glass doors of the sleek office building every morning felt like stepping into a world that wasn't her own. Everything was polished, efficient, and professional. But despite the high-pressure environment, Rachel felt a strange sense of purpose. Her new role was focused on leading a charity initiative dedicated to animal welfare, a cause she had always been passionate about. Daniel had been supportive, giving her the resources and team she needed to get started. And while she was still adjusting to the fast pace of the corporate world, something inside her clicked. She wasn't just working a job, she was building something meaningful, something that could truly make a difference. But there were still moments when she felt out of place. The office was filled with high-powered executives, many of whom were decades older than her. She had spent her entire life in small, low-paying jobs. Now, she was leading a high-profile project for one of the most successful CEOs in the world. She still found herself questioning if she truly belonged. One afternoon, as Rachel was deep in thought, staring at a report for an upcoming charity event, she received a message from Daniel. It simply said, "Can we talk?" My office, 3 p.m. Her heart skipped a beat. What could he possibly want to discuss? She had been doing everything by the book, making sure the charity was running smoothly. She had even started reaching out to potential partners for animal rescue organizations. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. At 3 p.m. sharp, Rachel found herself standing outside Daniel's office, the weight of the situation heavy on her shoulders. She took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," Daniel's voice called out from inside. Rachel entered, her eyes immediately drawn to the view of the city beyond his office. Daniel was sitting behind his desk, his usual composed expression on his face. "Rachel, thank you for coming," he said, looking up from his laptop. "Please, have a seat." Rachel sat down, trying to maintain her composure. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Daniel set the laptop aside and leaned forward. "I've been thinking about the direction of the charity," he began, his tone more serious than usual. "You're doing great work, but I want to make sure we're doing more. We need to make a bigger impact. I've arranged for some new resources to help, but I need your help in taking things to the next level." Rachel nodded, eager to help, but unsure where the conversation was heading. "What do you mean by taking things to the next level?" Daniel stood up and walked over to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "I'm talking about a major partnership with a network of animal shelters across the country. It could significantly increase the reach of our initiative, but it will require a much bigger team and more funding. I want you to lead this effort. But it's going to be intense. Are you ready for that kind of responsibility?" Rachel's mind raced. A nationwide partnership? It sounded like a huge opportunity, but the pressure was daunting. She had always played it safe, never stepping outside her comfort zone. But this could change everything. "I'm ready," Rachel said, her voice firm. "I won't let you down." Daniel turned around, a faint smile on his lips. "I knew I could count on you. But there's something else I need to tell you. You've proven yourself more than capable, Rachel, and I think you should have more control over the direction of this project. You're not just working under me anymore. I want you to run it." Rachel's heart raced. "Run it?" she repeated, stunned. Daniel nodded. "Yes. You're in charge. I'll be here to support you, but this is your project now. I believe in your vision, and I want you to make it happen." Rachel could hardly believe what she was hearing. A few weeks ago, she had been barely scraping by, unsure of what her future held. Now, she was being entrusted with the responsibility of leading a major initiative. It was a dream come true, but also incredibly overwhelming. She looked up at Daniel, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you. I promise I won't let you down." Daniel gave her a reassuring smile. "I know you won't. You're going to do great things, Rachel." As Rachel left his office that day, she couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Excitement, fear, and a sense of responsibility that weighed heavily on her shoulders. But one thing was certain: her life had changed in ways she never imagined. She was no longer just an assistant working 3 jobs, she was the leader of something meaningful, something that could help change the lives of so many animals in need. The next chapter of her journey was just beginning, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Stay tuned for the next part of Rachel's story, where she takes on her new role and begins to see her vision come to life. As Rachel sat in her small apartment that evening, looking over the details for the upcoming charity event, she couldn't help but feel the weight of her new responsibility. The days since Daniel's meeting had been a blur of meetings, emails, and phone calls. She had started working with a team of passionate people, all of them dedicated to making the charity a success, but the pressure was mounting. The task she had been given was enormous: leading a nationwide partnership for animal welfare, managing a team, and securing funding. Rachel leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. She had come so far in such a short time, but with every success came a new challenge. She had been pushed out of her comfort zone, but she knew deep down that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. The thought of what she could accomplish, what they could accomplish together, was enough to keep her going. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Daniel. "Rachel, I wanted to check in and see how everything is going. Let me know if you need any support. I believe in you." Rachel smiled softly, her heart warmed by his words. Daniel's support had meant the world to her. In many ways, he had become more than just a boss. He had become a mentor, someone who believed in her when she had doubted herself. She quickly typed back, "Everything's going well so far. I'm doing my best to keep everything on track. Thanks for checking in." As the days passed, Rachel found herself working late into the night. The charity event was fast approaching, and she knew that this would be a defining moment for the project. The pressure to make it a success was unlike anything she had experienced before, but she couldn't afford to let herself get overwhelmed. She had to succeed for the animals, for the people who had supported her, and for herself. One afternoon, as she was finalizing the details for the event, her assistant, Sarah, knocked on her office door. "Hey, Rachel, I think you should take a break. You've been at this for hours." Rachel glanced up at Sarah, trying to force a smile. "I'm fine. Just making sure everything's perfect for the event." Sarah walked in and placed a coffee cup on her desk. "Rachel, I know you want everything to go well, but you're working yourself into the ground. You're only human, you know." Rachel sighed, feeling the exhaustion settling in her bones. "I know, but there's so much to do. I can't afford to slow down now." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "If you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of the event? And how can you help the animals if you're running on empty?" Rachel looked at her assistant, realizing that Sarah was right. She had been so focused on the work ahead that she had forgotten to take a moment for herself. She had always put others first, but now, with so many people relying on her, she had to learn to take care of herself too. "You're right," Rachel admitted, her voice softer now. "I've just been so caught up in everything. I want this to be perfect." "I know," Sarah said kindly. "But perfection isn't everything. The fact that you care so much already shows how much you're doing." Rachel smiled, feeling a bit of the tension lift from her shoulders. "Thanks, Sarah, I needed that." As the days passed, Rachel began to find a balance. She still worked tirelessly, but she made time to rest and recharge. She leaned on her team, trusting them to handle the details while she focused on the bigger picture. Slowly, the weight of the responsibility became a little easier to bear. The charity event was only a few days away, and Rachel felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. This was the moment that would determine the future of the charity. She had done everything she could to prepare, but she knew that once the event started, it was out of her hands. All she could do now was show up and give it her best. On the night of the event, Rachel stood backstage, watching as guests mingled in the grand hall. It was everything she had imagined and more. The room was filled with people who cared about the cause, who wanted to make a difference. It was a night of hope, a night of possibility. As the event began, Rachel stepped onto the stage to give her speech. She felt her heart pounding in her chest as she looked out at the crowd. "This is it," she thought. "This is what I've worked for." Taking a deep breath, she began, her voice steady. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Your support means the world to us. Together, we can make a real difference in the lives of animals who need us the most. This is just the beginning, and with your help, we can continue to grow and do even more." The crowd applauded, and Rachel felt a wave of emotion rush over her. She had come so far, and this night was proof of what she could accomplish. The event was a success, and she knew it was only the beginning of what was to come. As the night drew to a close, Rachel found Daniel in the crowd. He walked over to her with a smile, his eyes filled with pride. "You did it, Rachel," he said. "This is just the start of something amazing." Rachel smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. "Thank you, Daniel. I couldn't have done it without your support." He nodded, his expression softening. "You did it on your own. You've earned this." Rachel couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude. She had come so far, and with the support of the people who believed in her, she was ready for whatever came next. Stay tuned for the next part of Rachel's story, where she faces new challenges and continues to make an impact. As the weeks passed since the charity event, Rachel felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. The event had exceeded all expectations, and the funds raised were more than enough to kickstart the nationwide animal welfare initiative. The momentum was growing, and Rachel was starting to feel more comfortable in her new role, more confident in her ability to lead. But even with all the success, there were moments when she still felt like she was on the edge of something unknown, something she hadn't yet fully grasped. One morning, as she walked into the office, her assistant Sarah greeted her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Rachel. You've got a meeting with Daniel in about an hour. He said it's about the next phase of the project." Rachel nodded, feeling a twinge of nervousness. She had gotten used to the constant pace of her new life, but Daniel always managed to make her feel like there was still so much to learn, so much to do. She knew the next phase would be crucial. The success of the first event had only heightened the expectations. The pressure was starting to mount, but Rachel was determined to rise to the challenge. An hour later, she found herself standing outside Daniel's office, her nerves building with every passing second. She took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," Daniel's voice called from inside. Rachel stepped in, and Daniel looked up from his desk, his expression neutral but welcoming. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Rachel, come sit. I'm glad you're here." Rachel sat down, trying to keep her composure. "Thanks for meeting with me, Daniel. What's on your mind?" Daniel folded his hands on the desk and leaned forward slightly. "I wanted to talk to you about the next steps for the initiative. The first event was a huge success, but now we need to scale up. I want to take this nationwide, and I think you're the perfect person to lead that charge." Rachel felt a surge of excitement mixed with nerves. Taking it nationwide? That was a massive leap, but she knew it was the direction they had to go. She had already seen the impact they were making, and the thought of reaching even more people, saving more animals, it was exactly what she had dreamed of. "I'm ready," Rachel said, her voice steady. "I know this is going to be a lot of work, but we can make it happen." Daniel nodded, his eyes focused. "I know you are, but I want to make sure you're fully equipped for this next step. That means a bigger team, more resources, and the kind of support you need to succeed. You won't be alone in this. We'll be working together every step of the way." Rachel felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had always known that Daniel was supportive, but hearing it from him directly made all the difference. "Thank you, Daniel. I won't let you down," Rachel said, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Daniel returned the smile, his gaze softening. "I know you won't. You've already proven what you're capable of. Now, it's time to take this to the next level." Over the next few days, Rachel worked tirelessly, putting together a plan for the next phase. She expanded her team, bringing in experts in various areas: marketing, outreach, fundraising, and ensuring they had the resources they needed. She made connections with animal welfare organizations across the country, working to create partnerships that would allow the initiative to grow beyond the city. Despite all the progress, there were moments when doubt crept in. Could she really pull this off? The pressure was enormous. But she remembered Daniel's words, "You won't be alone in this." And that was the truth. She had a team that believed in her, and most importantly, she had faith in herself. One afternoon, as she was finishing up some last-minute preparations, Daniel called her into his office again. She knocked and entered, her heart racing just a little. "You're doing great, Rachel," Daniel said, standing up as she entered. "I just wanted to tell you how impressed I am with everything so far. You've taken charge of this project like it's your own, and that's exactly what we need." Rachel felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. "Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate your support." He smiled, stepping toward her. "It's not just about the animals, Rachel. It's about the impact you're having on the people around you. You've inspired so many already. This project is more than just a charity, it's about bringing people together, making a real difference." Rachel nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had always believed in the cause, but now, she was starting to see the bigger picture. This wasn't just about saving animals, it was about changing the world, one step at a time. As she left Daniel's office, Rachel felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just running a charity. She was leading a movement. And with every step, she was getting closer to making the world a better place for the animals and for herself. Stay tuned for the next part of Rachel's journey, as she faces new challenges and continues to make a lasting impact. As Rachel sat in her office late one evening, reviewing the latest reports for the nationwide initiative, she couldn't help but feel the weight of everything on her shoulders. The project had grown beyond anything she had imagined, and with every new partnership and donation, the pressure to succeed intensified. She was leading a movement that had the potential to change lives, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was still so much to do. The next step in expanding the initiative was even more daunting, reaching new communities, setting up national campaigns, and ensuring every aspect of the plan was executed flawlessly. Despite the progress, doubt crept in. Was I really ready for all of this? She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. The constant stream of emails, calls, and meetings had begun to take a toll. There were moments when she felt like she was being pulled in 100 different directions at once. Am I doing enough? She thought about Daniel's encouragement, how he had told her she was ready for this responsibility. But even with his support, the challenges felt overwhelming. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Daniel. "Rachel, I need to see you. My office, 10 a.m. tomorrow. We need to discuss the next phase." She sighed, setting the phone down. She had been working tirelessly to make sure everything was on track, but something about this meeting made her uneasy. What was this about? The next morning, Rachel found herself walking into Montgomery Towers with the same sense of anticipation that she had felt months ago, but this time, there was something different in the air. She had been handling so much more than she ever expected, and the weight of her new role was starting to feel heavier. As she entered Daniel's office, he stood up from his desk, his expression serious. "Rachel, please, sit down," he said, his tone calm but focused. Rachel took a seat, her heart racing a little faster than usual. "Everything has been going well, and you've done an incredible job leading the initiative," Daniel began. "But we need to talk about the future. We've made great strides, but it's time to take this to the next level. I want to increase our focus on international partnerships, and I think you're the right person to make it happen." Rachel's mind raced. International? She had barely scratched the surface of the national campaign, and now the possibility of expanding globally was on the table. Her excitement was mixed with nervousness. This was a huge leap, one that would require even more resources, coordination, and time than she had already committed. International? Rachel echoed, her voice uncertain. "That's a big step." Daniel nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I know it's a lot, but I'm confident you can handle it. You've proven that you can manage this project and make it grow. And now, we have an opportunity to make a global impact. But it will require your leadership and a bigger team to get there." Rachel's hands gripped the edge of the chair as she processed his words. This was everything she had dreamed of, but it was also terrifying. Could she really handle such a massive expansion? What if she failed? What if she couldn't keep up with the demands? I understand, she said, her voice more steady than she felt. I'll need more resources, a larger team, and more time to strategize. Daniel smiled, his eyes softening. You'll have everything you need, Rachel. I wouldn't ask you to do this if I didn't believe you were capable. I'm here to support you every step of the way. Rachel took a deep breath. The future was uncertain, but this was her moment. I can do this, she thought. I have to do this. All right, she said, her voice more confident now. Let's do it. Daniel's smile grew, and for the first time, Rachel saw a glimpse of the trust he had in her. This was more than just a job now. This was her chance to make a difference on a global scale. And with Daniel's unwavering support, she was ready to take on the challenge. As Rachel left his office that morning, a new sense of purpose filled her. The road ahead was filled with challenges, but she knew that she was no longer alone in her journey. She had a team, she had the resources, and most importantly, she had the belief in herself that she needed to make it happen. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Rachel's story, where she begins her journey into international expansion and the obstacles she must overcome to make it a success. The days that followed were a blur of excitement and pressure for Rachel. Her decision to expand the charity internationally was a huge step forward, but the road to getting there was anything but easy. She spent every waking moment strategizing, meeting with potential partners, and planning every detail of the global initiative. The task was immense, and there were moments when the weight of it all felt too heavy to bear. But she couldn't afford to stop now. She had made a promise to herself, to Daniel, and to the animals they were helping. This was her opportunity to make a lasting difference, and she was determined not to let it slip away. One afternoon, as Rachel sat at her desk, reviewing the latest draft of the international partnership proposal, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. Rachel, I need you in my office. It's time to talk about the next steps for our global campaign. Her heart skipped a beat. The moment she had been preparing for was finally here. She had worked hard to get to this point, but the pressure was starting to build. She took a deep breath, stood up, and made her way to Daniel's office, hoping to keep her nerves in check. When she walked in, Daniel was already sitting at his desk, looking more serious than usual. He gestured for her to take a seat. Rachel, I want to commend you on how far we've come. You've handled everything with grace and dedication, and now we're at a critical point. Rachel nodded, her mind racing. I know we've made great progress, but there's still so much to do. The partnerships are coming together, but we're going to need more time and resources to fully launch the global initiative. Daniel looked at her with a steady gaze. I agree. But we also need to be realistic. We're not just expanding a program, we're recreating a global movement. That means we'll be facing new challenges, new expectations. It's not going to be easy, and it won't happen overnight. Rachel swallowed hard, understanding the weight of his words. But even as the reality of the task ahead sunk in, she knew deep down that this was exactly what she had been working toward. This was the culmination of everything she had sacrificed, everything she had fought for. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady. We've come this far, and I won't let it fail now. Daniel smiled, a small flicker of pride in his eyes. I know you're ready. But we have to be strategic about this next step. We need to finalize our international partners and make sure we have the right team in place to handle the logistics. And we'll need your leadership to make sure everything stays on track. Rachel's heart swelled with both excitement and anxiety. Leading this campaign on a global scale was daunting, but it was also everything she had ever dreamed of. She had worked tirelessly to get here, and now it was time to see it through. I won't let you down, she said, her determination unwavering. Daniel stood up, walking over to the window. I know you won't. I've watched you grow into someone who can lead this project. But you have to remember, this isn't just about numbers or partnerships. This is about the lives we can change, the difference we can make. We're not just raising funds for animals, Rachel. We're building a future for them. Rachel felt the weight of his words sink in. It wasn't just about success or recognition. It was about creating a world where animals had a voice, where they were cared for and protected. And she was the one who could help make that happen. As the meeting came to a close, Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression softening. I have complete faith in you, Rachel. Let's make this global movement a reality. As Rachel left Montgomery Towers that evening, she felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. The future was uncertain, but she was more determined than ever to succeed. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but with Daniel's support and her own drive, she knew they could achieve anything. The road to building a global animal welfare movement had only just begun, and Rachel was ready to lead the way. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Rachel's journey, as she tackles new obstacles and pushes forward in her mission to create a world where animals are truly cared for. Months passed since Rachel had committed to expanding the Global Animal Welfare Initiative, and the momentum only continued to grow. What had once been a small, localized charity had turned into a nationwide and now international movement. The pressure of managing such a massive undertaking had never been greater, but Rachel had found a rhythm. Every day, she woke up with the feeling that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She wasn't just running a charity anymore, she was leading a cause that was changing lives. The journey was far from easy, but it had been worth every sleepless night and every challenge she faced. One evening, as Rachel was finalizing the plans for an international conference that would bring together leaders in animal welfare, she received a message from Daniel. Rachel, I need to speak with you. It's important. Can you meet tomorrow at the office? Her heart skipped a beat. She had been working closely with Daniel on the global expansion, but the tone of the message was different than usual. Something about it made her feel both anxious and hopeful. The next morning, she found herself once again standing outside Daniel's office, her heart racing with anticipation. She had become so used to the daily grind, but today felt different. She knocked on the door, and Daniel's voice called her in. Rachel, good to see you, Daniel said as he stood up from his desk. He was standing by the large window, looking out over the city. His posture was calm, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made Rachel's pulse quicken. Is everything okay? She asked, trying to hide the nerves in her voice. Daniel turned to face her. Yes, everything's fine. In fact, everything is better than fine. We've made tremendous progress with the global initiative, and we're seeing results that we didn't think possible so quickly. But there's one more thing I need to discuss with you. Rachel's curiosity piqued. What's that? He took a deep breath, as though gathering his thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've come to a decision. Rachel, I want you to take on a larger role in the company. You've proven yourself in every way. Your leadership in the charity, your vision for the future, it's time you step into a more prominent position here at Montgomery Enterprises. Rachel blinked in surprise. A more prominent position? She had always been focused on the charity, never imagining herself stepping into a role at the company itself. What do you mean? She asked, her voice filled with confusion. Daniel smiled, his eyes steady. I'm offering you a leadership role within the company. You've shown that you have the skills, the heart, and the dedication to lead, not just in the charity sector, but in other areas as well. We need someone with your passion, someone who cares about the mission, not just the numbers. I believe you're the right person for this. Rachel was stunned. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it felt like it came out of nowhere. I don't know what to say. Daniel's smile softened. You don't have to decide right now. I know it's a big shift, and I don't expect an answer today. But think about it. You've already made such an impact. Imagine what you could do if you had the resources of the entire company behind you. Rachel stood there, her mind racing. She had always believed in the mission of Montgomery Enterprises, but the idea of stepping into such a huge responsibility was overwhelming. Yet, deep down, she knew this was her moment. She had been given the tools, the platform, and the support to truly change the world in ways she had never imagined. After a long pause, Rachel finally spoke. "I'll do it. I'll take the role. I want to continue the work we've started, but I also want to help take this company to places it's never been before." Daniel's eyes sparkled with pride. "I knew you'd say that. Welcome to your new role, Rachel." As Rachel walked out of Daniel's office, a wave of excitement and fear hit her all at once. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one that would take her far beyond what she had ever imagined. She had always known her purpose was bigger than just the charity, but now, she was ready to step into a role that could help shape the future of Montgomery Enterprises and the world. The journey had only just begun, and Rachel was more ready than ever to face the challenges ahead. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Rachel's journey, where she takes on her new role and continues to make a lasting impact on both the company and the world.